So hi, my name's Cara, for anyone who missed the beginning.
Cara.
I work at Snowplow. I mainly work with our customers when they first sign up for Snowplow, kind of setting them up, designing the tracking implementation, implementing the tracking, building any data models that they need, kind of taking them through the whole setup when they're not as savvy as the press are. And so this is basically a very high-level diagram of the Snowplow pipeline. And so the Snowplow pipeline really has the three components that Romain already just explained. So on the one side you have all the trackers. So we have obviously like a web tracker, iOS and Android apps, lots of server-side trackers that you can put into your backend. We can ingest third-party webhooks, so we have a couple of out-of-the-box integration, and we also have a generic webhook adapter that you can kind of put any other webhook into. All of this data will be going to a single collector and then going through a single pipeline from there onwards. So for example, if you track in the backend and in the front end, or on iOS and Android and the web, like it will all go through the same data pipeline. Once it hits the collector, it will then go through a process of processing and enriching. And so there we have three steps. The first is validation. So as Romain mentioned as well, we validate events against the Snowplow tracker protocol and also any custom events against the schemas that you've defined up front. So we actually make people define everything they want to track up front. Which is really kind of the idea that you only have good data going through, which means that if you do want to load it into a data warehouse, you have really clear structures, and also just ensures that you can really take out lots of traffic that's just hitting the collector that isn't coming from you. And so that's the validation step. We then have an enrichment step where we have a couple of out-of-the-box enrichments, for example, like looking up geo fields based on the IP address, passing out the user agent and kind of UTM parameters. And then also we have some custom enrichments you can enable, so you can use a SQL enrichment, an API enrichment, or a JavaScript enrichment, just to add additional metadata to your events. We also have some enrichments around, for example, using the IAB bots and spiders list to flag events as coming from bot traffic, and some other events there. Just these are kind of like row level to each single event that's coming in, which could be like a page view, a link click, a video view, whatever you've defined. You just add more fields to that one event. You then have kind of any modeling you want to do in stream. So for example, you could then, modeling is more about looking across events. So for example, some of the things that Romain mentioned, where you're actually aggregating over a couple of different events. Maybe you're looking at a whole user session to understand what a user is doing, and maybe kind of calculate a score or derive some insight from that. Up until here, you kind of have all of that data enriched and validated in a unified log. Kind of the latency from here to here is a couple of seconds, like it really is near real time. And then from there we can load it into a data warehouse. So for example, we currently support loading into Redshift and Snowflake database, and we've recently ported the whole pipeline to Google Cloud Platform as well, and with that you can now also load into BigQuery. And then you can also obviously like use this stream in a way that the press does, to do any like real-time applications. So for example, marketing automation, some personalization on, for example, an e-commerce site, or anything else you want to do with the data. Again, as Romain said, the whole thing runs in your own cloud account, which means that you don't, like, the data never leaves your own kind of accounts. We just like manage the processing, we take care of the pipeline, but it essentially is your pipeline, it is not ours. So every single Snowplow customer has their own Snowplow pipeline. It is not one centralized pipeline for everyone. So that's kind of the data collection pipeline. We normally describe ourselves kind of as like we're for the people who want to take data collection in-house, but they don't want to build it from scratch. So we're obviously not as like a fully finished product as maybe Adobe Analytics or GA, but therefore we give people the ability to take control of their data collection, of their data processing, and also the ownership of that, and just way more flexibility, which does come at the cost of complexity, but that's what we're there for, to hopefully help with. Yeah, any questions? Or yes?
What type of things you can capture? You're talking about different things like page view, events, transactions. What else?
Whatever you like. Basically, the way it works is that you define a schema and like currently like the main thing is JSON schema. So you say, I would like to, for example, capture a registration event or pizza. I would like to capture. You could, for example, capture, if you're a games company, you could capture a level complete event or a character modify event. Like you can pick whatever you like, and when you say, I want this event to have the following properties, you can add as many as you like. You can define for each one the type. You can say, I want this to be an integer, a string, whatever, and then you basically write this schema, and then you put it into a registry that kind of lives here, and then every time an event comes in, you send it with the registry key for the schema, and then the pipeline will, in the validation step, look up the schema and check, does this match the structure that you said before? If it does, it will send it through. If not, it will send it to a bad queue. Then you can look at the bad queue and be like, oh, okay, I forgot to add this thing that I said I was going to add, and then you can kind of go back and change the tracking or change the schema.
How about PII information? There's any limitation on that?
So we actually, in response to GDPR, have developed a Pii enrichment, which basically lets you specify any number of fields in your events and hash them selectively. And then we actually have a penguin service, which lets you then selectively unhash that data later on. So for example, you could have one central person who says they're like the owner of the PII data, and they have like a lookup table where they can selectively unhash data. And then, for example, if some users have given you consent to unhash and actually use their PII for marketing, then you can unhash those. For those people, you can unhash, for example, their IP, their cookie, any other like email, whatever information you have. And for the other people, it'll just go and hash, which means that if someone from marketing, someone from data science team is looking at the data, they don't need the PII. It's a very easy way for you to kind of show to any regulator, look, like, where we're hashing it, we're trying our best to obscure it. Of course, like when you have event level data, it gets to a point where, like, if you have, like, for example, if you're selling clothes and you have one person who bought yellow socks at 2 p.m. on a Friday evening, and then you look in your data warehouse, you can work out from the granular data who it was, but it just makes it a lot harder. You can't like programmatically do that because you've hashed the cookie values, the IP addresses, whatever other fields you've picked, to make sure that kind of it's not as easy for someone accidentally to use emails in a marketing campaign when they shouldn't.